to the CE Pro podcast. I'm Executive Editor Arlen Schweiger. This week we're getting you up to speed. Actually, ultra high speed and premium high speed, because we're talking about HDMI. Rob Tobias, CEO and President of HDMI Licensing, joins me to discuss the latest HDMI 2.1 news and products, how integrators can optimize gaming systems, identifying certified cables, and much more on this week's podcast episode. As always, be sure to subscribe to CE Pro's YouTube channel and hit that like button on our videos, or subscribe to the CE Pro podcast on Apple and Spotify and leave a review. Rob Tobias, CEO and President of HDMI Licensing, thanks so much for joining the CE Pro podcast this week.
Well, thank you for having me on. Always enjoyable.
Yeah, HDMI, of course, is always a hot topic with CE Pro audience. You know, we had an HDMI-focused podcast back last fall, but since then, you know, certainly we've had the annual CES show come and go, a lot of developments and introductions on the 4K and 8K television side. Rob, can you just start us off with an update about some of the latest products and HDMI 2.1 enabled features that are now on the product or will soon to be on the market or soon to be hitting the market?
So this year was a little unusual. We had virtual CES, not as fun and entertaining as in person. Not able to get your hands on products, check it out. Not able to meet everybody who we typically get to meet at the show. However, it was still a great event. CTA pivoted, got a virtual, exhibits going, meeting rooms, etc. And there were a ton of product announcements. So that has not changed. And a lot of great new TVs have come to market. This year, 8K continue to be the flagship models for all the TV brands. So there are more and more models have come out with more features. Prices are inching down, so they're starting to become a little more affordable. So for your customers there that want the bleeding edge, future-proof 8K now comes in all sorts of giant screen sizes to put in there. And they all now come with one or more HDMI 2.1 ports. So they are future-proof, ready to go to connect to the 8K sources that are starting to emerge around the world. But more important and more headline grabbing are all the 4K TVs that have added the gaming features. And we'll talk a lot about gaming here in this podcast. I think that's one of the big drivers, but we're seeing the TVs offering 4K with 120 refresh rate panels. So it's great. They're adding, motion smoothing, things like that. Most of them are offering more than one HDMI 2.1 port this year. In the past, it typically was a single port. They're offering features such as the variable rate refresh, the auto low latency mode, the FRL fixed rate link, which offers the 4K 120 and 8K level 8K 60 performance. And then also in the audio section is eARC, Enhanced Audio Return Channel. So most of these TVs have also layered in the eARC as well, so you can pass through the high performance, high bitrate audio, Dolby Atmos, DTSX, to being a great home theater sound experience into the living room, into the family room, into the home theater.
Right, Rob, it's certainly a perfect time to be unleashing all of these new features on customers who are really hungry for home entertainment, gaming especially. Yeah, I definitely want to follow up about that because I know a lot of these features tie in directly to the gaming crowd. I know from checking out some of LG's new, premium sets and what they were doing during virtual CES, they were very big on, really pointing out those features and why they were great for gaming. So let's talk about that in terms of the gaming market. The last podcast that we aired, last year that was HDMI Focus was before the PlayStation 5 came out, or the new Xbox console came out. Now these are out there and integrators are going to be installing more gaming related systems. So, how how and why is gaming important to the the HDMI 2.1 market?
So about every 7 years, the console manufacturers release a brand new hardware platform. And it's a big, big deal to the gaming community. And so both Sony and Microsoft introduced their game platforms last fall and started shipping them over the winter. And they've been big hits. They're still today sold out. So, it's a challenge getting your hands on one, but if you can, they're a fantastic platform. So both the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and both of those platforms are real drivers for the HDMI 2.1 feature set, and particularly around the higher frame rates. And so they're going to take advantage of the 4K 120. Now both platforms can go to 8K for both video and games, but it's probably be a while before 8K games make an appearance. But the games are being developed for 4K 120, and that'll give you smoother motion for these games. But they like to also layer in there the variable rate refresh, and what that enables is it removes the tearing, the frame tearing you may see, because as motion speeds up, the GPU may require more time to render a frame. And so if it can't do it at a 60 hertz or 50 hertz rate, if you're in the EU, you may get screen tearing. So it allows the GPU to speed up or slow down the refresh rate depending on how heavy a graphics load it has. And then also is the auto low latency mode. And so this is a great feature for those of us who hate digging in the settings, figuring out how to turn your TV into the game mode or the low latency mode. This just allows, when you turn on your console and your TV, it's going to switch to that port. It's going to automatically switch the TV to auto low latency mode. And then you can be off and gaming and not have to worry about it. So those two platforms are really driving the whole ecosystem, and that's why at Virtual CES you saw all of these companies making grand announcements around my TV is the best for gaming, and if you look at across all of these brands, everybody had that same message, and so we're very excited to see that you have your choice of products. There's just not one brand of TV that supports these game platforms. And then also too, you have a choice of game platforms, and some are PlayStation fans, some are Xbox fans, and some will shell out for both because there's exclusive games on either platform that they want to take advantage of.
Hey, Rob, for integrators out there, obviously their showrooms, cater to having individual listening rooms for, high-end stereo, home theater rooms. Should they prioritize creating gaming rooms, having a separate vignette where, if they are able to get a hold of a PlayStation 5 or Xbox, they should basically create something around that to really highlight the difference with these new features?
That would be a fantastic idea, because that's what's driving a lot of consumers to consider upgrading. A lot of people did already upgrade to 4K. So now they need another reason to upgrade again, So I bought it, 4K, upgraded all that, but now what do I need to do? Go to 8K, go to 4K 120? Well, these games offer really compelling value proposition to upgrade your home entertainment system. And so showcasing those and how easy it is to use these games, seeing how the improved video quality and performance is with the HDMI 2.1 really would give people both a visual as well as audio. These game platforms support things like Dolby Atmos as well. So you can, if you set up an Atmos system, you put your gaming system in there, you put the latest and greatest 4K or 8K TV, especially one that supports all the gaming features, I think you can really impress your clients.
Yeah, I think we might have have floated an idea out there just now for CD Expo exhibitors in terms of some of their exhibits that they're putting together.
Maybe a great way to show off their wares.
Exactly, definitely. So in terms of ultra high speed HDMI cables, those hit the market in November last year. And there were a lot of, the early to market manufacturers making them available. Obviously CE Pro, we have a lot of, you know, well-known manufacturers out there supporting our integrators. What are some of them that have rolled out product since this time?
So the ultra high speed cable program is a very important certification program to ensure these new features are fully supported, especially the higher bandwidth. And that's where the ultra high speed cable certification program has come into play. As you mentioned, it was announced last fall, where companies could take their cables, send it to a HDMI forum authorized test center. They have to pass the performance test, and they also have to pass an EMI test. And the EMI test is to ensure these cables do not interfere with all of these radios that are built into your products, like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And so you want to ensure when you're installing these systems, you look for the certification label. And that is a label. Each of these cables is required to adhere to their packaging or to the cable itself. It's an anti-counterfeit label, so you can scan it and verify it is what it is. And then you will be ensured that it will work where these higher bandwidth are being used for 4K 120 and 8K. And so some of the manufacturers or some of the brands that have come out with the ultra high speed since then are brands like Rocketfish, AudioQuest, Banco, Zestkit, Belkin, Hama, Austere. So many of the well-known brands, many of the brands servicing the this marketplace are selling ultra high speed certified cables.
Right, and there's the certification program covers the premium high speed as well, correct?
Yes, so that was the first part of the certification program. That's been in place for many, many years now, and your listeners are very familiar with the premium certified program, and that was set up to certify high-speed cables for 4K 60 and also for low EMI as well. And that today the vast majority of installations are 4K 60. And so the premium cables are ideal for that. It gives the installers assurances that that cable has been tested and certified and will work in those installations. And a lot of the known brands like Liberty and Binary and Banco and Legrand, they all have premium certified cables.
And I know there's certain an ID program to that in ways that they're able to know that everything is legit and what's supported, and so how can integrators again know exactly what they need for a project, and why is it just importance for the overall HDMI compliance ecosystem, Rob?
Well, we're very aware and concerned and work with the industry to ensure interoperability and compliance with the specification, because there's nothing more, nothing worse than you install everything, plug it in together, and it doesn't work, and you have to start troubleshooting where the problems exist. And cables are an area we want to make sure that high quality cables are what's available in the marketplace. Unfortunately, there are bad actors, especially coming from the Far East, that are unlicensed, untested, uncertified, and unfortunately they make their way through various channels, mostly a lot of the online retailers and stuff. So to counteract this, we put these certification programs in place, and to help integrators and installers verify it, we have the certification labels. There's a premium certification label, there's an ultra high speed certification label. So you can see some graphics that are on our website, what they look like. There's a holographic image there and a counterfeit holographic image, QR code, and then we have an HDMI app that they can download on their phones and scan, and the scan will come back and say this is a 6-foot Banco Model X cable. And if it scans and it's a fake label, you will get a message back that says this is not a registered cable.
And what happens then in terms of anything that you hear about, you know, what can be done, or is there anything that can be done, you know, to ensure that what's out there is legit in terms of enforcement actions?
So we have a enforcement arm, a compliance arm at HDMI Licensing, and we work closely with customs and border agencies around the world, and especially here in the US. We train them on what are legitimate products, not only cables, but also box products, how they can identify what's counterfeit, and they will seize these goods and destroy these goods that they find as counterfeit. So we want to ensure only products that have been tested, that follow the spec, are licensed to use the intellectual property, are available to the channels, to the installers, to retailers, to consumers.
Robin, in terms of the cable types out there, I know we've had a little bit lately, or recently, I should say, on active optical cables and a power spec, or more power being able to drive those types of products that we know integrators and a lot of these manufacturers deploy. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So there is a part of the HDMI 2.1 spec. It's a newer feature called Hdmi Power. And it has a source is able to output a higher amount of power so that active cables and active optical cables can be powered from the source device. And what the benefit there is, many of the older style cables had to be plugged into a USB port or a power socket to power the active components in these longer cable runs. And so this is a very exciting feature, we think, for many of the systems builders who build matrix switches and other extenders and other sort of devices to build that into their products so that the installers can buy that, know there's the power available. And when they use an active optical cable or just an active cable, they can just plug it in and not require any external power.
Yeah, it certainly helps streamline some of those complex system designs out there. I'm sure they appreciate that, because we, like you said, we do know there are a lot of products out there where they kind of make for a perfect fit in systems that need something like that. In terms of Ultra HDMI cables, obviously those they're getting a lot of the publicity lately. But for integrators on the job, why is it important for them, to continue to look for and install the certified premium cables, premium high speed that we had mentioned before on projects these days? I mean, is it, what does that tell us about the state of, where 4K is in the home entertainment industry and gaming, and anything else about immersive theater?
So 4K is really hit its stride now. So, it's, anybody who's upgrading is, 4K is at the very affordable price points. There's more and more 4K content available. If you look at many of the streaming media services, and ultra HD Blu-ray players. So there's a lot of content that's now available. And so in those type of installations, premium high-speed cable, premium certified high-speed cables be the ones that would be ideal for those type of applications. When you're going more advanced, more higher performance, if you're installing 8K or even 4K 120, then ultra high-speed cables will be the ones that you would want to look for and install.
Sounds good. It definitely 4K streaming is, been hitting it big over the past year. In terms of non-virtual shows, obviously we're all excited about having the in-person CD Expo coming up right around Labor Day weekend in Indianapolis. Is there anything you can tell us, Rob, about the types of ways that the HDMI licensing group gets involved with any training and education that integrators can expect to see at the show?
So we too are excited to get back to in-person events, get to meet and shake hands and chat with everybody that we'd like to see in the industry. So we do work closely with the planners and trainers at CEDIA to provide topics, materials, work with them on vetting some of the courses they put together. So CEDIA has a great group of trainers. They know how to put a good course together, and we like to help them flesh out their content and fill in the content. So we do expect a number of HDMI 2.1 related courses to be at the show.
Great. Well, we're certainly looking forward to seeing the way that HDMI 2.1 impacts education, demos, as mentioned before, and anything else coming up about installations that we look forward to. So on that note, Rob Tobias from HDMI Licensing, thank you again for joining the CE Pro podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. My pleasure, and everybody have a good day.